Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly Pokies Burke, and this is the Career Slay podcast. Imagine the impact we could have on society if everyone loved what they did. That's what Career Slay is all about. I'm interviewing people who love their jobs and asking them how they got there and what they've learned along the way. We're here to slay the fear in career. Our next guest on Career Slay is Kristian Bottini. As a serial entrepreneur, Kristian never settles for good enough or the status quo. A natural technologist and innovator, he's found his passion in digital marketing and has been CEO of 270B since its inception. Welcome to the show, Kristian.
Thank you, Kelly.
Super excited to have you. So we go way back, maybe like a year.
Yeah, about that.
But we work in the same industry. And before we get into kind of your career trajectory and your story, just wanted to go backwards and tell us a little bit more about what you were like as a child, your background growing up.
Yeah, so I grew up in Brazil. My father was in the airline industry. My mother was as well. And we kept changing, moving around. So in the span of 7 years, we moved to 3 different cities in Brazil. 2 years here, 1 year there, etc. So as a young kid, I was somewhat getting into a little trouble here and there. I'm the middle child, so at the end of the day,
Me too.
Yes,
I get it.
It's always been against my brother or picking on my sister, etc. So there's that little middle child syndrome there. You know, at least on my end, I was always testing a lot of boundaries, trying to figure out what can I do where I want to just make sure to see how much I can bend the rules. And then when I was 7 years old, I moved to Miami. My father and my mother got transferred. Well, my father at the time, because my mother retired, he got transferred to Miami and we grew up there. You know, he kept traveling the world into different positions within the airline. But my mother was like, no, we're not moving anymore. We found our home here. This is where we're staying. So we kept seeing our father every other weekend. You know, he would come in from wherever city he was living in at that time. I would say that my mother kind of raised us, you know, but we kind of got our entrepreneurship from his end.
All right, so let me unpack some things. Okay, so you moved from Brazil to Miami, 7 years old. Your mother was kind of your, you know, the one who raised you. Did she encourage you to test those boundaries, or was she more like keeping you in line?
No, I think I was born that way.
Okay.
More of just always, you know, just a tester of boundaries by nature, just trying to manipulate situations myself. I see a lot of that in my son today. So it's kind of, I'm always like 15 steps ahead of him, which is crazy how the world just goes completely around, and you kind of see that within your own kids. But, you know, she was great. Taught us some great principles, honesty, love, compassion to people, etc. And, you know, so it was really, had a great upbringing, you know, regardless if, you know, it was just her doing most of that legwork. She really busted her butt.
Okay, so did you do high school in Miami?
Yes, elementary school, middle school, and high school in Miami, and then went to college at Florida State.
Okay, what did you study in college?
So that's a funny story. So kind of unpacks more. It started in high school, but I wanted to do business, but I never finished college. I got a full ride to Florida State University and had an academic scholarship on top of that too. But at that time, around high school in 10th grade, is my father, I would say, did the best thing for me, which is gave me a book. And I hated reading. I was not a reader whatsoever. But this book, you know, the title of the book was very intriguing to me. And I was like, well, I'm going to read this book. And it was Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh, yeah.
And I really connected a lot with that book, mainly because to a certain degree, I always thought I had a rich dad and a poor dad, and in different mentors throughout my life. So I really connected with that book, and he gave me that book, 10th grade. I remember I opened it up in biology. And then when I opened it up, it just got me into entrepreneurship. That was the first step. And then I became very focused on what I really wanted to do. And I wanted to just go do business. I worked my butt off. I always had 3 jobs throughout high school, worked at my parents' Quiznos subs that had a franchise. And then worked at P.F. Chang's busting table in a Jewish deli. And I just, you know, made a lot of money as a kid in high school. I just
like, how old were you? Like 17?
17.
Okay.
And they would pay me under the table because you couldn't hire people when I started younger. So they'd just give me tips and this, that, and the other. But I wanted to figure out a way to just start making money.
Okay, so what did you do with that money? Like you were a kid, like you're buying Pokemon cards, like what is?
No, so that's the funny part. So I went throughout high school, I started seeing people selling candy. And I was like, okay, well, I want to sell candy too.
Is this like legit candy?
Like legit candy,
okay.
like candy from Costco, you know, like Nerds and, candy bars, all that kind of stuff. So then I started seeing people doing that. So I was like, well, I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do one up. I'm going to sell Capri Suns too, because people get thirsty. And they didn't have Capri Suns in the vending machines in high school. So I was like, okay, Capri Suns, water bottles. And what I would do is Capri Sun at that time had these little metallic bottles. It wasn't a little pouch. It was these metallic bottles. And I would freeze them, overnight with the water bottles. Then I would wrap paper towels on them so that by the time lunch hits, they're like nice and slushy inside. And I would sell them all after lunch.
How old were you? You were 7?
Yeah, 16, 17-ish.
What?
And so then I brought the Capri Suns and I brought the candy. And I just started selling those. I got in trouble several different times, but whatever. They never confiscated my goods. So, but it did not stop me. I wanted to continue doing that because I made a lot of money.
Just to take a step back, what was the lesson from Rich Dad, Poor Dad that really just resonated with you?
What resonated to me the most is just it gave me the focus of just reading more personal development books, being more into business and entrepreneurship. So it kind of gave me a direction rather than lessons from it. There's great lessons in that book, but I think to me, I really felt like I had a Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
You had a mentor, right? Was that in college or in high school?
It was high school.
Okay.
It was my 10th grade girlfriend's father's best friend. So it was.
Here's the family tree.
And it was funny because she, I started talking to her about the book and this, that, and the other. And she basically said, oh yeah, my dad has a millionaire friend. I was like, whoa, who? And I was like, music to my ears. Who is he? I want to meet him. I've never met a millionaire in my life. And then she goes, yeah, I'll invite you to one of the meetings. And it was a network marketing meeting.
Okay.
It was a essential oils company. And so I went to a meeting. I was like, great. This is amazing. These oils are awesome, and I can sell oils. Like I didn't know anything about oils. And then all I wanted to just do what they're doing. Because to me, I was like, if I just follow their footsteps, I do what they do, I'm going to end up being that. I'm going to become that eventually. With time, of course. I was very patient. I'm not trying to be an overnight success from here to there. I knew that was going to take work, but it will rub off. Everyone you hang around with, and this ends up rubbing off on you, whether you like it or not. And then that's kind of where it started, and it was from one network marketing company to another meeting, and spent money trying to sell oil. Didn't sell a dime of oil. I could sell belts and earrings and candy all day long, but I couldn't sell oils.
I wonder why women would want to buy oil from a 17-year-old.
I don't know. It was weird. I still use the oils today. They're awesome.
They're
oils.
good.
Yeah, they're
legit products, though.
Yeah, they're legit products.
Okay.
They're good products.
So a lot of people have a bad perception of network marketing. So what is it that you learned from that experience that really helped you in your career?
The biggest thing I learned is it's not in the products. The success is not in the products. The success is in the system that you use. If you are able to create a successful system, that's what's going to make you the money, not necessarily selling the soaps and the oils or whatever else that you're going to do. So, a lot of these guys made a lot of money just marketing themselves, marketing their systems outside of the companies, and that's where they made success. To me, it was find a need, right? Fulfill it, create a system that's easy duplicatable, and sell it. That's what really opened my eyes and where I started getting into technology, because I found the passion in simplifying these tough situations, these blocking areas where people will get stuck. I can't explain this compensation plan. How do we do it? And we use tools like videos, websites, forms, and lead generation stuff, et cetera, to be able to create a system easy to use for anyone to do it. And that's where I was like, okay, that's my niche. That's where I really fell in love with in network marketing. And the network marketing was just a vehicle, and it took me several years to figure that out, that I really loved the system.
So were you doing network marketing even in college or?
Yeah, I was doing it. I think I signed up 2 people. Okay. I wasn't really
successful.
I can't say I was very successful in network marketing, but it was through network marketing that I met a gentleman He was really big in the industry, but was a great second mentor of mine as well. And he used to own a marketing agency before.
Okay.
He had American Airlines as a client and a bunch of other companies. And he was the one that basically told me, like, all these services, all these things that you're offering is just, you can wrap it up in a company, an agency, and just start doing that. You don't have to do it just for the network marketing industry. And that's where I started opening up my eyes. Maybe I do have an agency.
So going back to college, you said you didn't finish. Tell me about that.
Yeah. 10th grade, read that book, really focused. And I was like, man, I want to go to college. I want to study business. And I started doing this typical English classes, the same old stuff. And I started feeling myself kind of bored. Like, this is not what I want. I want to do business. What the heck am I doing studying English and math all over again? I just did that, in high school. So I went to my counselor, sat down with her, and I basically told her, I need to go straight into business. I need to skip all this kind of stuff that we're doing here. And she blatantly said, unfortunately, that's not how it works. And you need to do 2 years, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, that's not how it works for you. But for me, I have a different, take in my life. It was a risky move on my end, but I felt so empowered. I felt so in control that it didn't feel like it was a risk. Yeah, I let some people down, but I felt like it was just going to be a waste of time. And
what did your parents say?
They don't like it. And sure. So that's when I really went into personal development, reading a lot, started learning a lot about Tony Robbins, all that kind of stuff, Jim Rohn, Bob Proctor. I started attending all these different seminars and wasted all my money there. And I wouldn't say wasted, invested. Because they have taught me amazing principles that I still use today. I use it with my kids, and it's worked wonders. At a certain point, I was a little scared because what would happen if I failed? What if I didn't make it? They'll just, you see what happened. And but I didn't care. I knew what I wanted.
So let's unpack failure a little bit. What we've learned is that, failure drives innovation.
Yep.
And as an entrepreneur, you're going to fail. So can you talk a little bit about your experience with failure and how that's kind of shaped your career too?
I did fail a lot. To me, I think one of the things I was always told I've learned from personal development is everything happens for a reason, and that reason serves me. And sometimes we just focus on the failure too much as opposed to just, okay, it happened, fine, move. So every time there is difficulty, there is failure, to me, it's like the universe is moving around to be able to make its proper way for me to keep going forward to what I really, really want. And, it's hard to see that sometimes, and it takes time to get to where you're going to go. And I think that was the hardest part, is just wanting to rush. You want to be overnight success and this, that, and the other, and it just doesn't work that way. It just takes a lot of hard work and patience and a lot of work on yourself to be able to get to where you want. Because sometimes you're not ready for the success. And I think that's the biggest lesson for me, was that a lot of people want to get to where they want to go too fast. But if you were given that opportunity, you would fail because you didn't learn the life lessons to be able to handle that success or that responsibility. And I think, that gradual growth, that steady growth is extremely important, so that you're able to give it time to be able to learn the proper life lessons, the proper way to deal with situations, so that when you do reach success, you reach it in a more organic way, and it's, you can sustain that success over a huge period of time.
Yeah, no, that's super insightful and deep. I know, there's so many people, and, just even in corporate America, where if you get promoted too quickly, you're not ready. And then people are relying on you to perform and be something that you're not, you know? And so that's really great advice. Going back to your second mentor, he was basically, gave you this advice that, hey, you could package this up, create your own agency. Is that what got you into starting 270B?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
So he was a great friend of mine. He was able to help me get investors for a social media marketing tool that I put together. That failed. He passed away with leukemia, and then right at his end and stuff like that, he always talked to me about the agency. And then when he passed, that's what I was like, I'd have to do this. It's basically a way to market my services outside of this industry of network marketing. It was a great industry, love it to death, but it's small. And I didn't see a lot of, growth potential in what I was going to do. And I think I could benefit other industries and other companies because it was just, I had a knack for taking complex things and just simplifying the heck out of it. And that was the system. First opportunity I got was a Pilates studio here in Dallas. I built a little site for them and started doing their monthly maintenance work. And then I got a plastic surgeon, and then they kept just referring different people. Everyone always said, oh, do you do fulfillment? I was like, yeah, I do fulfillment. I didn't know anything about fulfillment. I didn't even know what fulfillment was. And then I was like, great. Do you do printing? I was like, yeah, we do printing. We do welcome kits all the time. I never did welcome kits, but we would find professionals and people that did welcome kits, that did printing, and we would negotiate the heck out of the deal, put our pricing on top of it. And I just said yes to everything. I'd figure it out later. And that was just my motto.
So were you the one actually doing the development? Do you know how to code?
I don't know how to code. No.
Okay. I was just like clarifying. Okay. I'm like, because I wasn't sure. I always thought you were a web developer.
No, I know very little about web development. I know enough to be dangerous from what is possible, what is not possible, how much things cost, and that's all through just experience.
So fascinating. So you started this company, 270B, this agency. It was you.
It was just me, yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't 270B before.
No, it was Wealthy Mind Incorporated. The way that name came around, my first mentor, I arrived in his house first time, and we were sitting at a dinner table discussing just business, etc. And he said, well, what's your email? I'm going to email you something. And he was really big into personal development. And I was like, oh, it's doughboy72 at AOL.com. I was like a little chunky and stuff like that. So, and he looked at me and was like, really? That's your email? I was like, yeah. He goes, well, why don't you think about that for a second? What are you telling the universe when you're saying that email, doughboy72? Like, do you think that's good, positive energy and this, that, and the other? I was like, actually, the way you put it, no. And he goes, why don't you just change your email into something a little bit more positive, more reinforcing, so that every time you type it, your subconscious mind is saying, okay, I'm this, instead of doughboy. And I was like, well, that makes a lot of sense. And then I was like, well, what would Wealthy Mind work? He was like, that's great. And I was like, all right. So I got Wealthy Mind at AOL.com. And then he started saying, well, you got to open up a company so you can have write-offs, et cetera. And then I was like, all right, great. Well, it's Wealthy Mind Incorporated. It's still Wealthy Mind Incorporated, DBA 270B, but it came to a certain point a couple of years ago where people thought we were a financial consulting company, not an agency. And I was like, you know what? I'm sick and tired of hearing that. Let's just rebrand. And that's when we went to like a little rebranding exercise, and we got 270B.
So what was the process of going from like a one-man shop into really building out your team and growing the agency? What was that like?
A little stressful, mainly because it was just all on me and finding the right team members and freelancers and consultants to work with. And it was only when we got a decent sized contract that I decided, okay, well, now it's time to bring on somebody that I don't have to pay per project or per design or per hour or whatever that is. I'm able to make more margins off of that. And so then I hired a designer, and he came in. He's still working with us today, so it's awesome.
That's great.
And he came in, and we were in a Regis office here in Plano. It was a 70 square foot little thing.
70 square feet?
Yeah, it was nothing.
So a closet.
It was a closet, and it could fit 3 people, and it did fit 3 people. Oh, wow. And it was tight. It was hot, and it had no view. So, but it cost $600, $649 a month. I had free coffee, which was great. And then it was just trying to build organically. Like, we didn't hire to fire. We didn't hire just because we need to fit a need. We always look for who can I bring on as a freelancer first to see if it makes sense, until we are no longer making good money anymore with this person, because we have so much business in this type of service that we need to bring on somebody. So then we hired that position. Now we're at 13.
That's amazing.
Still small, but we're dangerous.
I know. So you also opened up an office in Brazil.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
So that's where Alessandra deals with more, my wife, mainly because it's just too much for me. But both of us are from Brazil. And so we have roots there. We understand the culture. And at the end of the day, we were given opportunity because we have a distribution business in Brazil that distributes products that are sold in the United States over there into Brazil. We had an opportunity to market those products, with the marketing budget that the company was going to give for those products. So we're like, well, let's just do it ourselves, keep the money instead of paying somebody else. And then we hired one person over there to do social media, and he just kept picking up. I was like, man, this is growing really fast over there in Brazil, and people like the work that we were doing. And if we're going to do this, we're going to go 2 steps in. And I told her, you're going to head it over there, and I'll make sure everything is going great overall, but you're going to spearhead the whole project. And she's been doing that, and it's growing faster than here. Like it's been blowing up over there. And
yeah, you should give your wife a raise.
Yeah. Well, she says that all the time.
Okay, so
she needs to give me a raise. She controls the finance.
What is 270V up to now?
We have a big business development initiative that we're doing, and we've never done any biz dev for all the years that we've been in business. It's just been people referring people, and just word of mouth. We've never gone to conferences and try to market ourselves. We never did an ad. So it's just, you never put any energy to it. And at the end of the day, if we're not putting energy to it, you're not doing anything with it. And we want to get bigger. We want to, just do more, help more brands, help more clients get where they need to. And since we're seeing that growth in Brazil, like we gotta grow here too. So, we're really focused on biz dev now. It's biz dev in this industry is just who timing, relationship. It's not a quick, phone call.
You're planting seeds that might not sprout until,
3 years.
Yeah.
Until the opportunity happens, and make sure that I ever think about you at that time.
Yeah.
The cycle it's a long cycle. We're a smaller team, but we've been, we took smaller projects, and, someone used to call it crumbs, and, and like, here's a crumb. I was like, don't worry, I'll eat all the crumbs because it keeps us fed. So give me all the crumbs, because pretty soon I know there's going to be a big chunk, that's going to come in. I am thankful that I'm able to find passion in simplifying things and creating systems. And every time there's a problem, I love solving it. That's why I love getting phone calls from people.
Trust me, we call Kristian way too much.
I love getting calls from whomever and just saying, hey, I got this problem, and be able to just find a solution and find it fast and then blow people away. Like, to me, that drives me. That feeling is just, it's really what drives me to continue doing what I'm doing, and I want more of those opportunities.
Very cool. Why is passion and purpose, finding that in your career, so important?
I think it's important mainly because it's what keeps you going when you get beat up. At the end of the day, when you're like, why the heck am I doing this? Because you do get burned out, and you have to have something that kind of anchors you back to why you're really doing this. And you have to have that passion. If you don't have that passion for it, it's just going to become work.
And what's interesting is going back to the very beginning, your network marketing experience just taught you how to authentically talk to people and, in a way, sell to people, right? And the product that you're selling is yourself.
That's it. And that's what my wife says all the time. She says, I don't like selling. It's more a relationship type of thing, more like a trust type of thing where I'm able to kind of grow in there, wow, and be able to get the hard sell at the end of the day, mainly because there is that relationship, those roots planted, those seeds planted before, where the person I'm going to do it, and it has happened several times where people have given us the trust to deliver on things that I didn't even think I was going to be able to do it. And, it kind of goes back to network marketing, the principles of, as long as I can conceive it, in my mind, I'm going to say yes to it and figure it out later on, because the universe will conspire to make sure that happens. At least that's my mindset around it. And things has always done that.
Very optimistic, Kristian. That or super confident.
Yeah, it hasn't failed on me yet.
So looking back, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self? And I guess in this case, your 17-year-old self.
Yeah, I was just going to say the quote from Jim Rohn, which is, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. It was something that really stuck with me. He's a speaker that I admire a lot, mainly because he uses very elementary words and elementary statements, to touch the audience and to explain to them how things are just much more simpler than you really think they are. Yeah,
that's super interesting. The internal focus versus the external focus, control what you can control versus what you can't.
Exactly. And focus on that, and you'll be able to get there. So that's kind of where my mind was always at. It was just, what can I do for myself? And that's where I took a lot of time in just self-exploration, working on myself, working on skills, to being able to be a better individual for others and for myself, inclusive. And to me, that's where that work has really paid off. Would I have made the same decision, not going to Florida State? Like, yeah, 100%. I would have spent those 4 years on myself. It would have gotten me so much further. But you have to know exactly what you're doing. Some people are just like, okay, I'm going to wing it. Like, no, like to me, I had 110% that I knew exactly what I wanted. And it was business, entrepreneurship. I wanted what was in that book, and I knew exactly what it was. And it's hard to make that call, but that's kind of where, I think personally I made the right decision.
That's amazing that you have had that clarity since you were such a young person.
It's hard.
Is that the same type of mentality that you're instilling in your children?
Yes. It's kind of hard to, at least my daughter wants to get into psychology. Great. That's definitely a field that you can't just wing it. But at the end of the day, but I want to ask her the questions. Why? Why do you see yourself there? Because it's hard. You're asking 18-year-olds to make a decision on which route they want to go and what they want to do. They get freaked out because they don't know. And I feel like sometimes people just need to take 2 years off, really figure out before they say, okay, let me do this. I'm going to go into this, or I'm going to go into medicine. I'm going to whatever. Some people know exactly what they want to do, which is great. And, but the sooner you can find that passion, the sooner you can find the direction where you want to go, the better in life you'll be, so that you don't waste that time, that learning curve. And if all else fails, just work on yourself. That's the biggest education you're ever going to give to yourself, is if you could just work on yourself, work on your skills, and be able to be a better you. I think you could be able to, pay off much more than just sitting there and trying to guess what it is that you want to do in your life.
Yeah, invest in yourself. It's so important.
It's huge.
Bet on yourself, right?
Yep, because you can control everything.
Yeah.
So it's amazing what happens when you actually do that.
Yeah.
And how quickly you start to change.
And also you're like manifesting that good energy, and people want to be around that good energy too.
People start, flocking to you. So, just find people that you want to be around, that you want to learn from. You want to get to this position. Well, you got to be working with that person every single day. Learn every single thing about them. Take them out to coffee. Be them. Act like them. If that's who you idol, you have to literally mimic them. It sounds childish, but that's what it is. You mimic that person until you can talk like that person. It's, just like jazz. I used to play saxophone, and we used to essentially play on top of jazz musicians. So when Charlie Parker was playing a record, we would get the sheet music, we would have to memorize it, and we would play with his record and try to match the same tonality, the same effects and everything that he did, so that when we turned the track off, we sounded like Charlie Parker. Cool. And you can literally do that. Hang around the person that's where you want to be, and things just start rubbing off. You start learning all these little lessons, all these little things that they do. And
man, I want to hang around you. Okay, if you had to sum up your career in 3 words, what would it be?
To me, it's actually 2 words, just fail fast. I didn't want to sit there and dwell on it. I wanted just to get the learnings and just go. And some people just get stepped back too much from it. I know it's going to happen. I'm going to try to anticipate it as much as possible. I'm going to try to set the proper things so it doesn't happen. But it's inevitable that it does happen all the time. And those are your stepping stones. Those are your blocks that you have to go through. But if you can figure out a way to do it really quick and just go right over it, that's to me what I would sum it up with.
That's awesome. Well, this was such a great conversation, Kristian. Like, more than I ever expected. I've learned so much from you and just your story. So thank you so much for sharing.
No problem. Thank you very much. It's been an awesome time.
The Career Slay podcast is a co-production of Career Slay and Wild Reply, produced by Michael Berg. Stay tuned for some great conversations on slaying the fear in career.